How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope, this time for January 4th through January 10th of 2021. Haven't seen you guys since last year. Long time no see. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. You guys should kind of know by now, this is like a really big week. And also what makes this week really big is next week is really crazy. I'm just looking at this next week part of like my little folder right here. Next week's gonna be really wild, and really this week is kind of like the domino effect. Like if you've seen that meme where it's like the guy like, I can't even think of the meme right now. My brain's kind of everywhere. Let's jump straight into it. Here we are on Monday, starting this week off. Moon's going to be in Virgo. You know what that means? Being organized, being efficient, being detailed. It can bring a lot of anxiety because there's this hyper fixation on all of the small little things. However, what I do like about Monday is that the moon is going to be, first, it's going to make a square to, first it's going to trine Mercury. With the moon trining Mercury, there is this sense of, getting things clear, getting things communicated, being able to efficiently relay a message, right? And the moon's also going to apply to Venus as well, right after it trines Mercury. So there's an ability to be like soft with this message, or at least be able to, I would actually say maybe not even soft. It's Virgo and Sagittarius. Not everyone's going to be picking up what you put down. I think the message will be able to get across easily though. The one thing though that we do see on Monday is Mercury is conjoining Pluto as the moon is trining Mercury. So on Monday with Mercury on Pluto, we've talked about all of these Pluto transits that we've had. A lot of heightened anxiety. A lot of the smaller things are turning big. A lot of the bigger things are turning small. Mercury is literally the messenger. Mercury is like the microphone in the zodiac, and as Mercury is on top of Pluto, I don't want to be like a doomer right now, but I don't necessarily think this is going to feel all that good. It's kind of like, do you guys remember February when we saw articles in the newspaper that was like, big virus in Wuhan and China shuts down, and you're like, oh, that's kind of crazy, but it's not going to affect me because I live here in America and la 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 la. That's not how I did. I remember I read the articles of like China shut down, and I literally bought like a ton of N95 masks after that because I was like, oh, I know this is going to come over here. But Mercury on top of Pluto, there's something's fishy. Something's not right. Something's unsettling, I think is a good way to put it too. But I think though, in the more of the mundane sense too, with the moon trining Mercury, I think it's easy to communicate that message of like, hey, maybe things do feel fishy, but it's easy to express maybe what that is, or even pinpoint what it is. So on Monday, I know saying listen to your intuition sounds kind of vague, but like if you're putting the pieces together and you're kind of starting to see the patterns, like you have a good idea of what to expect, right? I think on Monday, that's, you're going to start seeing the cycle, you're going to start seeing the pattern, start putting two and two together and come up with the hypothesis of what you think is what you think is going to happen afterwards. Now, what's really funny is Tuesday, because Tuesday is the moon in Libra, and again, I was just on Twitter and I was looking at SJ's Twitter, and he talks about how this is he just made a funny comment about how this is the first moon in Libra transit now that Saturn and Jupiter are out of Capricorn. And as a Libra moon myself, I'm super excited for this because it's been very hard being a Libra moon over the past 3 years, especially my moon's at 22 Libra. So that Saturn-Pluto conjunction squared my moon. But with this moon in Libra, I think it's going to be easier, way more easier to try to find some balance, to try to find some, and not just about, it's not about being, balanced and fair, but like literally what is right, what is just, what is fair. And I think as the moon's in Libra, there's an easier way of going about this. It's not so difficult. And again, the moon will go into Libra and immediately make a trine to Saturn and Jupiter on Tuesday. And that's going to be like super early Tuesday morning. And then for the rest of the day and Tuesday. So as the moon, first makes that trine to Saturn, being able to relay like Saturn and Aquarius, what's the spirit of the law, what's holding society together. Like Saturn and Aquarius is like, for example, like in certain societies it's rude to do certain things. Like I always thought it was funny in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is one of the best cities to go to really see cultural differences around the world. Like I used to work at the Hard Rock on the Strip, and you would just see, people from the Middle East, people from Asia, people from Russia, people here and there, and they all just had these different social dynamics, but it was unspoken. Like something I find really fascinating between like Western culture and Eastern cultures is like in Asia and specifically places like China, when they're walking through big crowds and they bump into people, they don't say, excuse me, they don't give a shit. They're just trying to get to where they're going to go. It's easier. They're not wasting their time blabbering away versus us Americans. We're like, oh, excuse me, oopie, well, let me just squeeze right by you. And why I'm bringing this up is Saturn and Aquarius is like, there's these social norms, there's these social rules that we all kind of abide by, that we all kind of, agree with. And some things are spoken, some things are unspoken, just like in America. Like if you don't say, excuse me, like you're kind of an asshole. Even though it's kind of, I agree, it's a waste of time. But if someone bumps into me and doesn't say, excuse me, I'm going to think that they're an asshole. As the moon's in Libra though, making that trine to Saturn, there's this like, it's like when everybody's on the right page. It's like when you go to the store, like regardless of what your opinions are about the mask thing or whatever, I think it's really ridiculous when I go to a grocery store and like, at least here in LA or in California, and someone's like not wearing the mask, even though it's the store mandate. It's just kind of like, you're kind of being an asshole because everyone else is kind of judging you. And I think as the moon's in Libra trining Saturn, there's this sense of like not having necessarily confrontation, but everyone kind of going with the social order. Everyone kind of like all in agreement on things. I know it sounds crazy. Everyone in agreement on something is a very crazy concept to think of right now. But as the moon goes into Libra, trines Saturn, trines Jupiter, things are going to kind of work out, and you're going to kind of go, okay, I understand how I can make sense of this. I understand how I can, again, communicate this. Another thing you guys have to understand is the moon is a messenger. Yes, we give Mercury messenger all the time, but when you think about the moon is the thing that moves the fastest. The moon is what, connects all of the planets as we watch it transit the sky. The moon is the original OG messenger. And as the moon goes through Libra, trines Jupiter and Saturn, I think we're getting the message clear, and there's harmony here. There's agreement. I can't emphasize enough on the agreement. So while on Monday, there's this unsettling feeling of maybe something is about to change, I think on Tuesday, though, this is a really fresh breath of air of what, the Saturn and Aquarius, Jupiter and Aquarius year is going to be like. There are going to be a lot of challenges, which we're going to talk a lot about, because especially this week and next week, there's a lot of challenges with this new Aquarius stuff. But I think this is one of those days where we go, hey, like Saturn and Aquarius isn't actually all that bad. Kind of like when Saturn first went to Capricorn and we got those moon and Taurus trines, and it was like, yes, money, work, and, stability and things, being efficient and whatnot. However, then we go into Wednesday and everything kind of changes, because as you guys can see, Mars goes into Taurus. It's like 10:30 right now. I just got out of the shower and I was in the shower thinking about this, because like it's almost odd how long Mars has been in Aries. And when you have a planet in its domicile and it's comfortable, right? Like it's easy to, have you guys ever been, when you're at your home, you don't smell your home when you live there, right? But let's say you go and travel for like a week and you come back and you come home and you smell it and you're like, oh, I didn't know like my house like smelled like that. Not that it's like bad or anything, but there's like a certain scent that us as humans have in our homes. And I think as Mars is in Aries, this is kind of like that, we're getting really familiar with our surroundings that it doesn't even faze us anymore. And I think as Mars goes into Taurus, it's like, oh yeah, like there's we kind of go back, we take that vacation, we come back, and there's a change that we didn't, or there's something there that we didn't see before because we were just in it for so long. Now that we kind of left it, now we're like able to see the differences. And Mars and Taurus, so I'm on the fence if it's going to be, I don't think it's necessarily going to be worse. The way I was kind of thinking about this in the shower was with all of this stuff in Aquarius, because you got to remember, we're not here yet. But as Mars goes into Taurus, it's on its way to squaring Saturn and Jupiter. It's not yet there yet exactly though. But the Saturn and Jupiter and Aquarius, there's all this new stuff. There's all this stuff going on. Mars and Taurus is doing things really old school. I like to think of Mars and Taurus as like an old Datsun or on the road and on the freeway going 50 miles an hour, and then everyone else is going 90 miles an hour in their Mercedes and their Teslas. And it's like there's this huge contrast of like technology and ability. And the thing is with for example, Mars and Aries, from June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 7 fucking months of Mars in Aries where it was easy to initiate things. It was really, in fact, it was almost like we were incentivized to initiate things, even if, we had a lot of problems with that because it's Mars in Aries, Saturn, and Capricorn, the cardinal signs, and their domicile there. They want us to start things. They want us to begin new things. I just think with them in conflict, it was, wrong place at the wrong time, or, right place, wrong time. As Mars goes into Taurus, it's not about initiating things. It's about consistency. You got to think of the bull. You got to think of the ox. An ox is not going to take you somewhere fast, but it will take you there. And it will take you there consistently, and it will be slow. It might even be a little bit safer because, think of a horse where you're going really fast and, the horse could trip and you can basically die if you fall off a horse. An ox or a cow isn't really going fast. It's going to be kind of just consistent and slow. And yes, it's boring. And yeah, it's kind of exhausting. You want the thing to go faster, but it's going to get you there. And it's just like, one thing I've learned about being in LA, you got to just accept the traffic. And when you're able to accept that piece that you're not getting anywhere fast, and that you can just, really take in the moment, enjoy the radio. I mean, look around at it's not like you're looking at anything special in LA, but you just enjoy the process more because you got to be patient. And I think the big thing that we have to remember, and I shouldn't say we have to remember because this is something that we've been really, we should commend every human being on Earth right now for our patience with how, let's kind of take a step back out of the astrology real quick. When it comes to worldwide events, nothing has affected every single human being like this past year has. Nothing has. And so the fact that we've been so patient, the fact that we've been able to go through this I think is extremely commendable. However, with Mars and Taurus, we're not done. We have to keep being patient. And we have to really find that inner peace. Mars and Taurus isn't about going fast and isn't about starting fights and conflicts at 1,000,000 miles an hour. Mars and Taurus, though, I tell you what Mars and Taurus is about doing. It ain't about changing its mind. That's the cool thing about Mars and Taurus. Mars and Taurus is, that ox or that cow is going to do whatever it's going to do, and you can't do anything about it. It's a fixed sign, and wherever it's going, it's going. Nothing's going to change it. Not even the Saturn and Jupiter and Aquarius. It's like when you go on the road and you see that old grandma on the freeway going 45 miles an hour and everyone's flying around her. She's not speeding up. She doesn't give a shit about anyone else around her. She's going slow. She's staying in her lane, minding her own goddamn business, and it's everyone else's problem. And that's what I think that's really the big thing with Mars and Taurus. And so on a more mundane level, though, I think on Mars and Taurus, I think on the news, this is definitely bad. I think in the news level, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of things kind of start going, I don't want to say downhill. But the one thing I did want to bring up too is Mercury is also going to be squared by the moon. So while the moon's in Libra and we want to be balanced, we want to be fair, we're trying to find a middle ground here. Mercury and Capricorn is as much as we want to be fair, that's not what the contract says. Mercury and Capricorn is this is what you signed up for. For example, I was in a couple, I've gotten a title loan twice. I got my car repossessed once. And I've gotten to do payday loans, and they're awful. Predatory loaning, those guys deserve to, and they don't even deserve to go to hell. They deserve to live forever and suffer. Anyway, I signed up for that though, and those were the terms, the ridiculous. It was a 1,000% interest rate or something insanely astronomical. I signed up for those terms. And as much as it is unfair, I agreed to that. And I think the moon in Libra squaring Mercury is, even if it's fair, that's not what you signed up for. And this is what the terms are. This is the situation. And so you can go back and you can go back and forth of what's morally right and what's morally correct. But moon in Libra is, again, Saturn's, I don't shut up about Saturn being exalted in Libra. There's a reality that we have to take in here. And so as the moon squares Mercury, I think that message, it's kind of like when you're working with someone, you're like, oh, I need your help with doing this. And they're like, no, well, this is for example, I went to Verizon the other day which if anyone works for Verizon that's watching this, the My Verizon app is literally, I want to rake my eyes out. It's so bad. But it was like, I went to go in there to try to get an upgrade on my phone, and they were like, no, you can't come in, and because it's not essential. And I was like, well, I was literally in here yesterday doing the same thing, and it was okay. And it kind of upset me, but nothing I can do, right? And I think the moon in Libra squaring Mercury and Capricorn is like, you're going to get upset, but there's nothing you can do. And it's not that that's powerless. It's just figure out something else. Like, stop beating a dead horse. That's the way I would look at it. However, I think Mars going into Taurus, though, a couple things that you're going to see, because while I'm really making Mars and Taurus sound really good right now, we're going to be kind of drained. Mars and Taurus isn't about Mars and Aries is like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and I'm fighting this and I'm going here and blah blah blah. No, not with Mars and Taurus. Mars and Taurus is, hey, this is all I can handle right now. Mars and Taurus is like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm not adding any more. I'm not adding any less. I'm just going to get what I can done. Just being the best you that you can. And you are going to feel a little bit more drained. I think you are going to feel a little bit more exhausted. But I think that will only increase if you're trying to start new things. I think you will find more endurance, though, with Mars and Taurus. Like, this is not a workout where we're just adding on an insane amount of weight or during burnouts. Like, this is an endurance workout. How long can you last? And again, I want to make a side note, because I've honestly been really wanting to say this for a really long time, and I just haven't necessarily had the right words to say it, especially on Twitter, because Twitter just is set up for you to say things say anything and then get put in the wrong light. But there's been it's been really popular to be like, oh, this year it's been really hard, like on Twitter, everyone's talking about like, oh, you can't, like, if you're taking, what successes you had in 2020, like, that's bad. Like, people are just, it's okay to just get by. And I'm like, it is okay to just get by. There's nothing wrong with that. Live your life. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. However, I think in this reality that we're in, there's only growth or decay. You're literally only getting worse or you're getting better. There is no stability in life. That's a fantasy. And that's something that I'm still working and grappling with when it comes to fixed signs. And we'll talk about that later. But this is one of those times where you can't just lie idle and hope for the things to get the best. This is a lot of people's worlds have been completely turned around. A lot of your guys' lives have been completely turned around. And as much as I want to sit here and say, you know what, like, it's just get by, do what you can. Like, that's not how life works. Like, we got to live. You got to do something. You got to fight for what you got to get. And this is one of those moments where if you just lie idle and just kind of hope that things get better and you don't do anything to change, like, shit's going to probably get worse for you. But unless you kind of take the call to action, and this isn't necessarily like, I'm not a love and light astrologer, but I'm also not a doomsday astrologer. I try to go back to, let's look at life back in the 1800s. Before there was technology and all this shit, there was literally either like life or death. Like, most of human history is survival. You know what I mean? I'm not a survivalist. However, in this world, I think this COVID thing was a really big wake up. Like, things can't be easy and perfect forever for a lot of people. And there are going to be a lot of radical changes. And this is definitely a year where you kind of have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps if you really want things to get better. And I think, with Mars going into Taurus, there's going to be some difficulty, doing that. However, I do think with Mars being in Taurus, the endurance, being able to be patient, being able to go in for the long haul. Like, I think of, besides our opinions about politicians, I do think it's incredibly crazy how, like, if you guys have seen filibusters, like, they'll literally talk for 24 hours. I can talk for a long time, and I would never be able to do a filibuster. That's insane. But that's Mars and Taurus. Like, get ready for the long haul, because it's about to go down now. We get into Thursday. And I think this is where the moon and Taurus stuff really sets in, because, again, this is Wednesday. The moon's still in Libra. But once we go into Thursday, that's when the moon goes into Scorpio. Mind you, this is the moon's sign of fall. The moon doesn't do too well in here. The moon doesn't really like being here. The moon is going to make that opposition to Mars. And I think that's going to be the kicker. That's going to be like middle of the night, like 1 in the morning Pacific Standard Time on Thursday morning, so 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that Moon Mars opposition is going to be, I think we're going to wake up to maybe some bad news, maybe some things, a lot of panic too, because also again the Moon's going to move into Scorpio, go to opposite Mars, then immediately square Saturn and Jupiter, and then go straight to an opposition with Uranus. I don't think Thursday's going to be a clutching your pearls type of day. Thursday is definitely like a, I personally think you'll definitely see Bitcoin have a huge go down. I don't think it's going to flatline, but it's definitely going to go have a huge dip. And I think a lot of people are going to feel very insecure and very scared during this time, because that's just what the Moon in Scorpio does. It brings up all those fears. And you guys have been watching my videos for a while. I talk about Scorpio being about, what are we holding on to? What's worth holding on to? And that Moon part of it, it's like, it's like, the doomsday people. They're like, the world's gonna end. Do you have everything? Like, are you fucking ready? Like, do you have your prep and stuff? And it's like, it gets you all riled up. Like, oh, I gotta get my shit together. Like that's that. Those are Moon and Scorpio days. Moon and Scorpio days are just like that. And in my opinion, Thursday. This Moon is in a, what's that stupid game? Oh, I'm so young right now. All of my boomers. You guys are gonna hate me for this. What is that game? Pinball. The Moon is just getting hit by everything right now, and it's gonna feel a little uncomfortable. So I do think Thursday is going to kind of suck. That Moon's going to square, first go opposite Mars. There's some type of insecurity. There's some type of also like conflict. There's some type of dismissiveness. The Moon is going to then square Saturn, where there's definitely Scorpio and Aquarius is like, Scorpio's like, well, fuck you if you're not going to listen to me. And Aquarius is like, well, fuck you if you're not going to listen to me. And no one changes anything. Then the Moon squares Jupiter, which is like, that's not horrible, but it's definitely like a little bit of hopelessness. And then the Moon goes opposite Uranus, where it's just kind of big fuck it energy. So I don't really think Thursday's a good day. I really think Thursday, not to say that it's a bad day. I don't necessarily, well, you can have bad days, but I do think that it's going to be an uncomfortable day. And I think it's going to be an emotional day. So what I always like to suggest is just be ready. Just have that space ready for you. You know what I mean? If you got money invested, maybe get ready to pull out that time. I'm not saying I'm a financial advisor or anything, listen to me or whatever, but like just, I'm using this as an analogy. But then we go into Friday. And on Friday, we have Mercury moving into Aquarius. We have Venus moving into Capricorn. And by the way, Mercury also squares Mars as it moves into Aquarius, and the Moon will be at the later degrees of Scorpio, making that trine to Neptune. So there's a very stark difference between Thursday and Friday. Venus is in Sag. I feel like Venus in Sag is like when you're in class and you're like just hanging out with your friends, like think back in school and you're like hanging out with your friends and talking, not really paying attention to like what the teacher's saying at the moment. Then the teacher says something and you're like, oh shit, I haven't been paying attention for a minute. Like, what's going on? That's the Venus going from Sag to Capricorn. There's like this, oh, I'm having fun, blah, blah, blah. And then Venus goes into Capricorn. It's like, oh wait, I need to be kind of paying attention. Like I need to, because this is going to be on the test and this actually kind of matters. Venus and Capricorn, again, I talk a lot about this too. Venus and Capricorn gets a lot of shit. I feel like when you look up just like the basic stuff online, I personally think Venus loves being in Capricorn. Venus secretly has a relationship with Saturn and they are totally love each other. Again, Venus rules Libra, Saturn's exalted there. So Venus and Capricorn. Venus loves playing by the rules. Venus loves having rules and a structure and a system and that commitment and that plan in Capricorn, right? And again, Venus is reward. Venus is like, that's our reward. That's our incentive. That's what's incentivizing us to do things. And I think with Venus and Sag, there was this big incentive. We were incentivized to be more free. We were incentivized to be more expressive. We were incentivized to discover. And especially with Venus in the South Node, that looked like changing things or letting go of things. Sometimes freedom is adding new things, and sometimes freedom is letting go of things. Sometimes learning something is adding new information. Sometimes learning something is letting go of something. And Venus being in Sag is very, it's a spiritual process in my opinion. Venus goes into Capricorn and it's game time. You know what I mean? What's the rules to the game? How does this system go? And I think Venus being rewards, there's a reward to playing by the rules. You know, if you play Monopoly by the rules, like, you can win. If you play things by the rules, it's really easy to get, you know, and I'm not trying to say, like, yes, society does reward those who break the rules, right? I do think as Venus is in Capricorn, though, there's a reward, there's an incentive, we are being incentivized to have a plan. We're being incentivized to have a structure. We're being incentivized to kind of get things together. And also, Mercury is going to be in Aquarius, where this is, the hard part about Mercury in Aquarius, the one thing I want to say about this, Mercury is going to be in Aquarius for a long ass time. Mercury doesn't move out of Aquarius until like the middle or end of February. Because Mercury will go all the way through Aquarius. It's going to conjoin Saturn. It will then conjoin Jupiter and then square Uranus. And then it'll go all the way to 26 degrees Aquarius by January 30th. So think a couple weeks from now. Then Mercury will station retrograde, come back. It will then it will conjoin Jupiter again. It will conjoin Venus. It'll have its cazimi. Then it'll station direct and then move forward all the way again. We're going to be having Mercury in Aquarius for a long time. So get real comfortable with our mindset working this way. Mercury in Aquarius is like, you know, don't worry so much about how things look. Worry about how things operate. What is the, you know, as someone, you guys have, you know, watched my video. If you've been watching my videos since like 2018, you've seen how I used to just like have my iPhone and just go out and kind of blabber to where like I've been doing a lot more high definition videos. And I, you know, a couple weeks ago, I was having a lot more fun with like the cinematography with it. What that kind of got me doing was when I was watching movies, instead of focusing on the story and like the characters, which is very like Leo, right? I started just watching the cinematographer, and like when you get into like video work and camera stuff, you don't even pay attention to the movie. You're literally just watching like what would be in the background. There's a video. I wish, now that I think of it, I wish I would have put this on there, but there's this awesome video you guys should look up where it's a one-shot video and it's a changing scene. So the camera pans and it just slowly turns, and as it turns, it's like the cycle of this one-bedroom apartment, and it shows like this, you know, like this person being born, and then they grow up, and then as it turns, and it's one shot, and as this camera is moving in the background behind this camera, you have all these people changing the sets and changing the props and moving all of this stuff, and it all just seems very, you know, flawless. It seems all very smooth. Mercury in Aquarius is, stop focusing on the story. Let's look at all of the background stuff that makes that story even possible. Let's look at how that, like, for example, Mercury when you watch Elf, so Elf is my favorite Christmas movie. I honestly believe it should be everyone's favorite Christmas movie because it's honestly one of the only good ones. But in Elf, when Will Ferrell is at the North Pole, none of that CGI where they have the adults and they're all small. That's all forced perspective. They had a really small budget with that movie. And Mercury in Aquarius is so much more about like looking at that. It's that forced perspective, right? It's like, you know, you're actually looking at things a little bit differently, but it's a Saturn Mercury sign. It's things are being kind of forced into a certain way. Things are kind of put into a certain box for a reason. Same thing when you watch a movie. You're watching the movie, you're seeing all this great action, but behind it, it's all Hollywood. It's all, there's people doing a bunch of stuff. It's forced perspective. And as Mercury goes into Aquarius, this is about looking at things through that different perspective, looking at things through that bird's eye view, about not necessarily what is the story, but how is that story being told, and how am I able to even listen to that story? Mercury being about logos, it literally translates to logos. Mercury being about images, Mercury being about what we're communicating, how we're communicating, what's the message we're communicating here? And I think Mercury in Aquarius, this is a Saturn-ruled sign. Well, it's got to be serious. It's got to be, you know, virtuous. But this is Aquarius. Like, Mercury in Capricorn is like, you know, Mercury in Capricorn's a snitch, in my opinion, where it's like, hey, you know, we got to follow the rules, guys. Like, you know, don't do that. Mercury in Aquarius is like, you know, makes the rules cool. Like, you know, that meme. I put that meme on my Saturn and Aquarius video. Like, Capricorn is Daniel, and then Saturn and Aquarius is the cooler Daniel, if you know the meme I'm talking about. Mercury makes it a little bit cooler. Mercury makes it a little bit more easier to grasp. However, Mercury does square Mars, where no matter how cool you can explain your story, no matter how well you're able to, you know, finesse it, You're never going to sell someone a product that they don't want to buy. And that's Mars and Taurus. Like, Mercury and Aquarius is, no matter how much you like try and finagle, that Mars and Taurus just isn't going to give in. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make that horse drink that water. You can waste your whole life trying to fix and change people, and you will never get anywhere because they will only fix and change themselves. You can't fix or change anybody. You can only fix and change how you react and respond to that person. And Mercury squaring Mars is like, no matter how many weird ways you try, it's what's that saying? Something, a big force and an unmovable object clashing. I can't fucking think of it right now. Now that, of course, I need to think of it. There's going to be kind of some conflicts coming up here. So don't be surprised when you have some headbutts on Friday. Don't be surprised when you get a little bit frustrated with things not working the way that you want it to. Think of the last time Mercury squared Mars. Do you guys even remember the last time Mercury squared Mars? I do, because I got in a really big fight on that day because I told everyone we were all going to get in a fight. And that was on July 4th. That was when Mercury was in Cancer, squaring Mars in Aries. And you should really think back to what was going on for you guys back then. Because I know for me, I got into a huge argument on that day. It was not cool. And I was kind of expecting it too, which I was kind of hoping to avoid. Anyway, that's Friday. Moon's also going to be trining Neptune, by the way. So also, you guys know me. Moon in Scorpio, trining Neptune in Pisces. If you if someone tells you something crazy and you're like, wait, what, really? And they're like, yeah, this is how it is. Like the Moon in Scorpio, you gotta really be energetically, what's the word I'm looking for? You gotta have some boundaries with your energy. That Moon in Scorpio trining Neptune in Pisces is like, if it's kind of like when you obsess about someone like having a secret or like lying to you, it's like you can get really easy to be like obsessive about secrets or obsessive about things that you're not sure about or obsessive about things that you don't have any proof over. So like, don't worry about conspiracy theories, worry about what's in front of you. The Moon in Scorpio trining Neptune, it'll be really easy to be like, oh, I'm feeling out your vibe and I think you're lying even though I have no proof otherwise, it's just my feeling. While you might be right, who knows, that those emotions I don't think are going to help you in this case. And I think with Mercury and Aquarius squaring Mars is, don't worry about what you feel, worry about what you think and worry about what's kind of in your face right now. Anyway, we go to Saturday. The moon goes into Sag. Doesn't do too much. It will sextile Mercury and Saturn and Jupiter. Also on Saturday, Venus trines Mars. And Mercury conjoins Saturn on Saturday. So there's a lot of good things on Saturday. Kind of. Yes and no. Saturday's interesting, in my opinion. As the moon goes into Sag, I talk a lot about this a lot. The moon in Sag is a lot more free, a lot more fun, a lot more open-minded. But as the moon goes in and then sextiles Saturn and sextiles Mercury and sextiles Jupiter, there's this like, yeah, I can be more free. I can see things in a more open-minded way now that I'm Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and Aquarius. We're doing things in this new way. We're doing things in this creative and this different way. Now that we're seeing things from a different perspective, the gates open up a little bit. Once you get new information, things actually open up. Now, as the moon, there's kind of a couple of things with Saturday. Saturday's got like 3 different personalities, in my opinion. Because yes, the moon's in Sag, fun, outgoing, cool. It's sextiling Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter. Couldn't ask for more. Mercury on top of Saturn, I'm kind of curious, I'm a little bit skeptical about, only because, I want it to be good. I really do. But part of me really thinks this is Mercury, let's go back to, what was this, Shrek 2? Which I think Shrek 2 is incredibly underrated. For a lot of my people who've never seen Shrek 2, in Shrek 2, Shrek is hanging out at a swamp, and he gets a message from, I think it's Lord Farquaad. He gets a message from somebody, and he's like, you need to get the hell out of your swamp and go do something else, basically. And Mercury on top of Saturn, again, Mercury is the messenger. Mercury is just communicating whatever planet it's nearest, basically. And as Mercury's on top of Saturn, now that Saturn's freshly in Aquarius, now that this is all kind of new, and I don't even think we got, Mercury into, did we get a Mercury Saturn conjunction in March this year when Saturn first entered? No, we didn't. I don't even think we got Mercury conjoining Saturn. So again, this is the first time Mercury conjoined Saturn in Aquarius. So I think out of all of the days, Saturday is going to be the day where we really hear the Saturn and Aquarius MO, where we really like loud and clear what this is about. Whether that's more lockdowns, whether that's social distancing, I'm not really sure, but I think this is when that message is going to be loud and clear. However, we do have this really, it's kind of low-key sexy, this Venus-Mars trine. Venus and Mars, such a funny relationship. Venus is, it's with everybody, has her problems with Mars, has her problems with Saturn. But as Venus is in Capricorn, and there's these rules to the game, there's this, it's about being committed, it's about being efficient, it's about being, serious. As it trines Mars and Taurus is just looking for that stability. Mars and Taurus isn't looking to have fights and conflicts here and fight wars here. Mars and Taurus just wants to be that ox, just getting from point A to point B as easy as possible. And I think as Venus trines Mars, if you got a system going, there's a way that I feel like Mars and Taurus, that consistency, that endurance that we talked about. Venus and Capricorn is rewarding that Mars and Taurus, right? Venus and Capricorn. If you have a plan, if you have a system, and if you reward yourself with that, like that, it's going to help you it's going to help you with your endurance. It's going to help you with your long-term situation. And so, it's much less. I think this week with Mars going into Taurus, it's much less about like take action now and go 100%, but much more about like what is your plan? What they say with sobriety a lot, and just quitting any addiction is like you have to have a plan. You can't just go, well, I'm going to quit, alcohol one day and, hope for the best. Like, well, what are you going to do when you get triggered? What are you going to do when you, want to drink? What are you going to do when, you get dumped? What are you going to do when all of those triggers that make you want to drink happen again? You can't just blindly go into it expecting to like have success. Like that's dumb. But if you have a plan, if you have a system around it, if you have, plan A, plan B, plan C, you actually have, hope for success. And I really think with Mars and Taurus, it's not about going a million miles an hour. What can you do with what you have right now? It's not about wishing for more, wanting, saying, oh, I wish I had things differently. What can you do right now with what you have? And how can you make a fucking plan with it? That's what Venus and Capricorn wants. I can't zoom in anymore. Otherwise, I would zoom in more with Venus. And with Mercury conjoining Saturn too, again, this is the new message. What is this message? Like Mercury conjoining Saturn too, I think it'll be really clear for us of like, where do we need to get serious? Where do we need to get disciplined? Where do we need to have some more authority, more maturity? I think Saturn's day, this is also Saturn's day. Yeah, Saturday. I think Saturday is going to be really interesting. I think after we have the insecurities of like Wednesday and Thursday come up, Friday we'll have the game changer because Venus moves into Capricorn, Mercury moves into Aquarius. But then Saturday, it's like we kind of get restructured and reorganized. We're like, okay, now I know what I'm kind of doing with this new energy. But then we get into Sunday. We get to this time next week. And this is when the moon's going to be conjoining the South Node, and it's going to be making a square to Neptune. And, there's really no big planetary transits happening on this day. It's just this day. The moon's just going to be on the South Node, which I think is exhausting. I think the moon in Sagittarius, if you're just avoiding things and if you're just kind of like, wanting to check out, I think that's going to be exhausting. I think that's actually going to make you more tired. I think as the moon squares Neptune too, I think there's going to be a lot of confusion. But the one thing that I don't shut up about, I'm a broken record with most astrology topics. It's Sagittarius and Pisces. It's all Jupiter stuff. It's all about having faith. Like, where are you putting your faith in? And I think the moon in Sag on the South Node is like, you kind of have to have faith in, in yourself or what information you have or what path you're going down. And that moon scoring Neptune, it's like playing poker, unless, sure, you can count cards, but let's say you don't count cards and you're just playing, there's got to be this sort of trust or faith, this sort of intuition that you kind of pull to play. The moon squaring Neptune on the South Node, there's this sort of, I think letting go of certain beliefs or certain ideologies, certain idealism isn't really, a certain idealist idea isn't working out. I I don't think it's bad though, because this is only just the moon going into Sag, and by the time we get into Monday next week, that's when the moon will go into Capricorn, and the moon going into Capricorn will immediately conjoin Venus right afterwards, and trine Mars. So that's all fine and dandy in my opinion. I think Sunday is much more reflective and meditative, and I think also Sunday is much more about releasing, what's the word I'm looking for? Not liberated, but like relinquished. Getting things, off yourself is a good way to look at it. And that's this week. Are you guys ready for what is going on next week? So get this. Mercury conjoins Jupiter next week. There's the new moon in Capricorn next week, which, hallelujah. I think the new moon in Capricorn might be bad, but also I'm kind of looking forward to it. Mercury squares Uranus next week. Mars squares Saturn next week, which that's the kicker. That's the bad thing. Like, Mars squaring Saturn is definitely not fun. I think that's also when you're going to see a lot of this. Like, I've been kind of saying this a lot recently. It's eerily quiet right now for how much shit is about to go down. Like, I was just reading about how, like, they want to put, they're like some lawyer of Trump wants to like kill like Mike Pence, and this also like they're saying that like if they hold it off, Nancy Pelosi might be president. Like, I truly think that the next 2 or 3 weeks are going to be as crazy as they possibly can be. And for right now, it is eerily quiet. But Mars square Saturn, that Mars square Saturn is definitely like, Mars entering Taurus is the snowball effect beginning. I think Mars squaring Saturn is when that snowball becomes, oh, this is an avalanche, or oh, this is a little bit bigger than its momentum is, Mars and Taurus is momentum. Mars and Taurus is also, there was someone who commented on my last weekly horoscope that I used the word inertia wrong, and I didn't. Inertia is both an object standing still and moving, you asshole. I hate when people say I'm doing things wrong. Like, trust me, no. Inertia can be a moving object too. Anyway, that really made me mad, even though I usually don't get that mad about comments. Anyway, Mars squares Taurus. That is going to be somewhat of an issue. Uranus stations direct, which isn't bad, but I do think that's, again, like a dice roll. Like, you're not, like, again, expect the unexpected. It's just, I don't want to say the cherry on top. It's just an extra added layer to things. Mercury enters shadow next week. We're already almost to the first retrograde of 2021, and Jupiter squares Uranus next week. So that's 7 huge, like, we're not even talking about the moon in this. Sure, there's a new moon in Capricorn. We're not talking about anything else. Those are just 7 huge transits next week. So again, this week is very much like Monday and Tuesday are kind of cool. Wednesday, Thursday change things dramatically. I think that Mars and Taurus shift is going to be really big. And I think Saturday we kind of have to restructure ourselves and replan and re-strategize to get ready for the next 2 weeks. So, with that being said, I'll leave you guys with that. And thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'll be seeing you next week.